just to give you some introduction, Justin and I were both elected in 2010, so we're part of the 2010 intake when we almost took power, but not quite.
Reading is represented by two MPs, Rob Wilson and Alok Sharma, and Rob Wilson came to talk at our association last week, and I've never known an MP so well prepared. He did a 20-page speech. He did research on the seat. He had stats, he knew the job stats, the number of apprentices, our economic growth figures. It's all very helpful information for me. I said to him, why have you done this? He said, well, you know, it's plain courtesy to my audience that I research things. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. And out of total respect to you all, I have done a lot of research. So I too have 3 interesting facts. First of all, this is the first time I've ever spoken to a Welsh constituency in Reading. Secondly, my wife is from Reading. And thirdly, and this is a true story, my private secretary in my ministerial department, her favourite MP's name is Guto. And she told me to raise that. And she was really pleased about this. So I promised I wouldn't fail to mention that. So as you can see, I've put a lot of effort into preparing for this. Now, most people presume, Conservative MPs, we've been to Eton. We've had privileged upbringings, so I thought I would shatter that illusion because I'm also aware most of you all have never heard of me before now. So I thought I'd tell you a bit about my background. I went to 4 different schools. One is now in an industrial estate, one is now a charity specialist school, one's been amalgamated and one's been renamed. And I like to think they're not all down to me. But when I got elected, I phoned the head at the school and I said, I'm now in Parliament. He said, congratulations. The last person who made the press went to prison, but I'm not sure which is worse. We were bottom of the league tables. That was a title we held. And to put it into context just how bad it is, 2 of my best friends at school went to prison. One of them robbed a post office. Now, top tip here, if you're going to rob a post office, don't pick your local post office. Don't stand outside it for 3 hours debating whether this is a good or a bad idea while saying hello to about 100 witnesses. And then don't be surprised if after about an hour the police pick you up. My second best friend, and you see this proves in life what comes round. It all balances itself out. Now he was much better looking than me. And he got invited to much better parties than me. And I was upset about this. But at these parties they started to take drugs. And his parents split up, and at weekends they'd leave him be in the house, and he ended up becoming a safe house for these drugs. So he wasn't a drug dealer in the sense he stood on street corners and opened his Mac and said, what would you like? But he was a safe house. But he wasn't the brightest, and he was quite forgetful. So he kept all of his ecstasy tablets in a carrier bag with a notebook, very neatly, with the names and addresses of everybody he supplied, how much they paid, and when they came to his house. Anyway, when his house was raided, the entire Kidderminster drugs ring was smashed in one afternoon. And I've never known anybody so keen to go to prison. And being a good friend, being understanding in this moment of distress, I did repeatedly remind him just how good looking he was and how much he'd enjoy his time in prison. So, at school, I wasn't from a political family. I've got a brother who votes Labour Socialist work. He's probably happy with Jeremy Corbyn. He's a millionaire. This is the one where Neil Kinnock was expected to become Prime Minister. My classmate's dad was the Labour parliamentary candidate. Now remember, schools have really strict rules about being politically neutral. So they were handing out Labour posters. If you wanted to go and join the Labour campaign bus, you were allowed time off work. And they decided to capture this newfound enthusiasm for politics by having a school mock election. So being rebellious, being awkward, I offered to be the Conservative candidate. And I learnt 3 very valuable lessons. Number 1, I loved it and I wanted it as a career. And I told my careers teacher this, and I said I would like to be a politician one day. And he said, yeah, that's never going to happen. So, as I said, my school wasn't very good. Secondly, that I'd have to get a hell of a lot better at it, because I secured a groundbreaking 2 votes, of which 50% of them were my own. And thirdly, like Nick Clegg, be careful what you promise, because the other vote came from a lad called David, who it's fair to describe as the least popular member of my school. And I said to David, you vote for me, we will be best friends. So imagine. The results been announced. Not only have I been humiliated with the 2 votes, but the lad who beat me was one of my neighbours, the son of my parents' rivals. You know, you're competing with your neighbours. So I know I've got to go home and explain to my parents, not only have I failed to win, but Duncan's won. I'm walking home thinking, how do I break this to my parents? And there's David waiting for me to say, hi, what are we up to? Now, I am pleased to say we are still friends to this day. He just has no idea that he's in my speech. So he was a good friend. And anyway, I go off to university. I went to Oxford Brookes University, the former Polytechnic.
And these are the new committee rooms. We have a full committee corridor in the old palace, which I suspect you'll see on the tour, maybe not, but I hope you do. So the full committee corridor is in the old house, but we also have all of these committee rooms over here, which are more modern, and you'll probably know them from things such as Rupert Murdoch having a custard pie in his face, which happened in one of these rooms. And the reason for that is because if there's a select committee meeting which is considered to be particularly important or of interest to the press, they prefer to have it in these committee rooms because the television cameras are more modern, the acoustics are better apparently. So when I was on the Public Accounts Committee, the Public Accounts Committee is the oldest committee of the House, established in 1875, I believe. So it is the oldest select committee. Most of the select committees only came into being in 1880-81 under the first Thatcher government. But the Public Accounts Committee goes back all the way to 1875 because the responsibility of the Public Accounts Committee was to look at the way in which governments were spending its money.
In Germany, Sweden and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they would. But,
so we could be faced with a really bigger crisis then in, say, I don't know how many years.
European passport holders to move within Europe, subject to passport controls in the UK's context. It's not.